Love is sweet-o, but sometimes it comes with pepper that no amount of cold water can quench. That's how it was with my sister and her fiancé, K.O.'d. From the very beginning, everybody in our family liked K.O.'d. He was respectful, gentle, and carried himself like a true Yoruba man from a disciplined home. Whenever he came around, he would greet Mama and Papa properly, prostrating halfway, saying, "Ekaro ma, Ekaro sir." He never came empty-handed either. Sometimes it was fruit, sometimes it was soft drinks. He was not rich yet, but he was serious-minded. But his mother? That woman's tongue was sharper than blade from Idamoto Market. She could smile with all her teeth, call my sister Omomi, my child, and pat her back like she loved her. But behind that smile, Walla was waiting. The first time she dropped her real color was one Sunday afternoon. My sister had followed K.O. to greet her after church. She looked at my sister, smiled, and said, some girls are too fast these days. Before you even know them well, they're already talking about marriage. My sister smiled politely, but her hands shook. Later at home, she cried to Mama, "What did I do to deserve this?" And my mother waved it off but counted it as number one in her heart. Another time, K.O.'s mother looked at my sister's outfit from head to toe and said, "Your dress is fine, but marriage is not about dressing up and doing makeup. Some women will be slaying while their husbands are dying in silence." That day, I nearly laughed because the way she pronounced slaying sounded like she was saying slaying. But my sister's face was tight like umla without soup. The worst insult came later that day. Everybody was gisting peacefully when she dropped this one like thunder. Some girls don't come from proper homes. Their mothers didn't train them well. That's why they are so desperate to enter men's houses. K.O. coughed so hard, his father just adjusted his glasses and pretended not to hear. When my sister returned home, she locked herself in her room and cried until her eyes turned red. She told our mother, and Mama listened quietly. She didn't shout. She just said in a calm but firm voice, "Let her continue. One day, her cup will be full, and I will be waiting." That's how Mama stored in her heart and counted it as number 2 and number 3. And if you know Yoruba mothers, you know when they tie wrapper and keep quiet, it is not silence, it is preparation. As the wedding introduction day drew closer, peace in the family became like Nepa light. Here, now, and gone the next minute. On the surface, everything looked fine. K.O. and my sister were happy. The plans were moving. Both families were buying asobi, and relatives were sending congratulatory messages. But underneath, K.O.'s mother was still doing what she knew best, dropping shades like acra balls into hot oil. One evening, my sister went to greet her future mother-in-law. Everything was going smoothly until the woman smiled and said, "My daughter, I hope you know that marriage is not about food and fashion. Don't come into my son's house only to eat and snap pictures while your mates are building homes." My sister froze. She smiled politely and said, "Yes, Ma." But when she got home, she cried again because she couldn't just fathom what she had done wrong to K.O.'d mother. Finally, the long-awaited day came, my sister's introduction ceremony. That morning, our compound looked like heaven. Canopies were standing tall like soldiers on duty. Chairs were lined in perfect rows, and balloons were hanging as if they were waiting to clap. From the kitchen, the aroma of food and fried meat was flying through the air like invitation letters. By 11 a.m., guests had begun to arrive. The DJ was already blasting Sweet Mother, testing his speakers so loudly. The MC wore an agbada that looked 2 sizes bigger than him, but his mouth was sharp, ready to crack dry jokes nobody would laugh at. K.O.'s family arrived in grand style. They all wore matching sky blue lace with caps that were standing like satellite dishes. Their geli was so tall that it could have picked signals from a badon. They looked so united that people clapped when they entered. Our family, too, was ready. Mama's geli was the size of a small umbrella. Papa wore his agbada with quiet pride. And my sister looked like a queen. Her gold lace sparkled and her makeup was flawless. K.O. sat beside my sister, sweating like he was in a hot seat. He kept dabbing his face with his handkerchief, even though a fan was blowing directly on him. His nervousness was written all over his face. And then there was Mama. My mother sat in her chair like a lioness guarding her cub. She didn't say much. She just crossed her legs, adjusted her wrapper, and scanned the whole place with eagle eyes. Those who knew her were already whispering, "If anything happens here today, this woman will not keep quiet." K.O.'s mother was not left out. She sat like a queen herself, fanning with her large hand fan as if she owned the air. She smiled with all her teeth, but her eyes were sharp. If you looked into those eyes, you'd know she didn't come for peace. The ceremony began smoothly. Elders gave prayers. The cola nut was presented. Drinks were shared. The MC cracked one dry joke about marriage being like umla, sometimes sweet and sometimes lumpy, and people clapped out of pity. Children were running around, stealing meat from their parents' plates, and small chops were disappearing faster than expected. From the outside, it looked perfect. Two families smiling, eating, drinking, and pretending to love each other. But those of us who knew the history, we could feel it in the air. Something was coming. The peace was too artificial. It was like covering hot yam with cloth and pretending it won't burn you. And true to expectation, it didn't take long before K.O.'s mother decided to test the microphone of her tongue. She adjusted her gelly, smiled politely at the guests, and then said loudly enough for the two families to hear, These days, some women really don't know how to raise children well. That is why their daughters are so desperate to marry quickly. If not, how can a girl just be rushing into a man's house?" The whole place went cold. You could hear plates clinking. Even the DJ mistakenly pressed pause. K.O. coughed into his hand like a man swallowing pepper. My sister bent her head immediately, pretending to fix her gelly, but her ears had caught every word. Mama was still sitting, smiling, but her eyes had changed. And if you know Yoruba mothers, you know when their eyes change, the atmosphere is no longer ordinary. The MC tried to lighten the mood, clapping his hands and saying, "And marriage is a sweet thing. Let's not forget why we are here." But nobody paid attention. Just when we thought she would keep quiet, K.O.'s mother leaned forward again, fanning herself dramatically, and added another peppery line. Some families also lack class. The way they rush food at events, as if they have not eaten since last year. It can be very embarrassing. One of my uncles quietly dropped a spoon back into his plate. Another auntie stopped mid-chew, her puff-puff hanging halfway to her mouth. Even children paused in their running, sensing that thunder was near. K.O.'s father cleared his throat. "Aya K.O., please," he muttered, but she waved her fan and continued fanning herself like nothing happened. My sister gave Mama a signal. "Mummy, please, just ignore her. It's only talk." But Mama's ears were still blocked. Why? She was flogging not just one woman, but a generation of insults. By the time elders finally dragged Mama back, K.O.'s mother was sweating like cold water bottle under the sun. Her hair was scattered, and her lace wrapper half torn. Mama, on the other hand, adjusted her own wrapper, wiped her face calmly, and walked back to her seat with the poise of a victorious wrestler who just won championship belt. Everybody knew they had just witnessed history. World Wrestling SmackDown, live in lace wrapper and sponsored by Broom. The whole place looked like an after-war zone, with chairs scattered in different corners, gelly lying on the ground like fallen soldiers, people's food abandoned, and some plates of jollof rice had even flipped upside down during the commotion. K.O. was standing in the corner, scratching his head with one hand and holding his face with the other. He looked like a man who had just failed exam he thought he would pass. His eyes were darting left and right like Nepalite struggling to come back. You could see the confusion written on his forehead. My sister sat down sobbing loudly. "Mummy, why? Why today of all days? You've disgraced me." But my mother just consoled her and said some things are necessary, that sometimes you bring down your crown and put things right, and then you take your crown and wear it back. Some of the guests shook their heads in pity, whispering, "This marriage will not work again, oh." Others couldn't stop laughing quietly, covering their mouths with napkins. One man even said, "A beg, if anybody recorded this thing, send me the video. I must rewatch." It was confusion everywhere. Nobody knew whether to eat, to continue the program, or to just declare the introduction closed. K.O.'s mother sat in one corner, surrounded by people. She was holding her cheek, looking like masquerade after rainfall. Then Mama stood up, slowly. People who had started murmuring immediately kept quiet. She dusted her palms together. He raised her head high and said, "I have kept quiet for months. I have endured insults, mockery, and disrespect. I watched this woman talk as if she owns my child's destiny. But today, let it be known that I am a lioness, and if you use your mouth against my daughter, I will use my hands to reset your brain." K.O.'s mother raised her head slightly, eyes swollen, but when she saw Mama's burning eyes, she quickly bent again. She dared not speak. Then Mama added the final strike. She pointed her finger in the air like judge delivering verdict. Marriage is supposed to join families, not scatter them. But if anybody here thinks they can insult me, disgrace my child, and go free, then you don't know me well. From today, measure your tongue before you use it. Then she sat down calmly, crossed her legs, and began fanning herself again, this time not like a fighter, but like a queen who had just won the crown. When the dust finally settled, the introduction didn't continue as planned. The cola nut was still on the tray, untouched. The bottles of malt and minerals lined up on the table had lost their coldness. Nobody was interested in food anymore. Papa's face was heavy. He didn't say a word. He just kept shaking his head, as if wondering, how did my wife turn this ceremony into a battlefield? My sister's friends gathered around her, whispering, "Sorry, sorry," while dabbing her tears with tissue, but their eyes betrayed them. Some of them were hiding small smiles. They knew this was just for weeks to come. K.O.'s father looked tired. He stood, adjusted his ibata, and told the MC flatly, "It is enough. No more introduction," and that was how the ceremony ended. Guests started leaving one by one, carrying the story in their mouths like hot gossip. By evening, different versions of the story had already started spreading. Some said, Mama disgraced her in-laws because of small insult. Others argued, no, the woman deserved it. She had been provoking her for months. K.O. was restless. He stayed with his relatives in their shattered bus in silence. His mother refused to look at him, and when she finally spoke, her words pierced like arrow. "So, this is the family you want to marry into? A family where the mother will flog me in public? You better think well, K.O.'d. K.O. didn't reply. He just bent his head, sweat running down his face, as if the sun was following only him. Meanwhile, in our compound, Mama was still unbothered. She told a few relatives, "She has learned her lesson today. Next time she sees me, her tongue will behave itself." But Papa was not smiling. He went inside the house without touching his food. And my sister? She remained in her room and cried so loudly. Between sobs, she kept repeating, "Why me? Why today of all days?" I want to go in and comfort her, but honestly, I didn't even know what to say. In the sitting room, Papa sat down heavily, removed his cap, and pressed his hands against his head. He looked at Mama long and hard before speaking in a voice that was more of disappointment than anger. "Woman, why? Even if she insulted you, why today? Why in front of everybody? Do you know how ashamed I felt sitting there?" Mama didn't answer immediately. For the first time since the fight, she looked a little shaken, but her mouth still refused to surrender fully. "You don't understand," she said firmly. "I have endured that woman's insults for months. She has called my daughter desperate. She has mocked our family. She has painted us as classless. Today, she wanted to disgrace us again, and I refused. If I kept quiet, she would think she owns my child's destiny. I had to stop her." Papa sighed deeply, shaking his head. "You don't fight insult with broom. You fight it with wisdom. Now the whole community will only remember that you beat your in-law on your daughter's introduction day." Those words seemed to hit Mama. For a moment, she stayed silent. Just then, my sister came out of her room, eyes swollen from crying. She stood in front of Mama, her voice trembling but strong. "Mummy, I know you love me. I know you wanted to defend me. But today, you disgraced me. You turned my introduction into mockery. Instead of protecting me, you made me ashamed." The room went cold again. For the first time that day, Mama had no sharp reply. She whispered, barely loud enough for us to hear, "I only want to protect you." That night, nobody slept well. The introduction that was meant to join two families had instead left scars. And though Mama had won the fight, the truth hung in the air like smoke. In winning with a broom, she lost her honor. The weeks after the introduction were not easy. Both families were like two warring kingdoms. My sister stopped picking Keode's calls for some days. Keode himself didn't know what to say, and the mothers? Those two lionesses were still sharpening their tongues, refusing to admit they were wrong. Every family meeting turned into blame game. Mama would say, "She insulted me first," while Keode's mother would shout, "How dare she raise a broom on me?" Even the elders grew tired of trying to settle them. But in the middle of all the noise, Keode and my sister made a decision. They wanted peace. They loved each other, and they were not ready to let their mother's battle destroy their future. So they began to talk secretly, heart to heart. One evening, Keode told my sister, "We cannot keep waiting for them to change. If we continue like this, we may never marry. Let us choose our peace ourselves." It wasn't easy. My sister struggled, torn between loyalty to Mama and her love for Keode. But slowly they both agreed, "We will settle this our own way." Instead of the elaborate wedding the mothers had been planning, with 10 Asoebi colors, rented halls, and DJ competition, they chose a quiet one, just close friends, siblings, and a few elders who truly cared for their union. The mothers were not happy at first, but when they saw that the couple was determined, they kept quiet. None of them admitted openly that they were wrong, but by their silence, they allowed the matter to die down. And so, one Saturday morning, without the noise of drummers or the chaos of a big reception, my sister and Keode said their vows in a small church. No fanfare and no endless ceremonies. Low-key, they both thanked God for how things turned out. The broom fight, as shameful as it had been, saved them from spending millions on a showy wedding. Afterward, my sister and Keode moved far, away from the gossiping neighbors, and away from a mother's drama. They built their home in peace. In the end, their love story taught everyone around them something important, that sometimes the messiest day of your life can secretly save you from bigger troubles. So tell me, dear viewers, if you were in their shoes, will you go ahead with the wedding, especially if you were in a lady's shoes? Because to me, I feel Keode enabled his mother by his silence. Please share your thoughts with me in the comment, and please subscribe if you have not done so. Until I bring the next story your way. It's a goodbye-e.